What's up, guys? Welcome to the Fantasy Addiction Network. In this video, we are going to be talking about the pairing of running backs in Baltimore, trying to break down this fantasy conundrum, because if we get the answer right, this is going to be a very productive backfield and one that will probably lead to a lot of titles. Fortunately, the answer is not as easy as we'd like it to be, which explains the current ADP price for both Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins. Let's get into it. We'll talk a little bit further in detail. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button for me for more content like this one. Helps us out a lot. But let's talk about these guys. So obviously J.K. Dobbins, drafted in the second round, actually had the same draft pick as the last time the Ravens spent a second round pick on a running back, which happened to be Ray Rice. They kind of compare as well in terms of a lot of physical metrics and production, J.K. Dobbins to Ray Rice. So anyone that has been playing fantasy long enough should remember, other than Ray Rice's fall from grace from a fantasy player, he was very productive. Had 4 seasons finishing in the top 5 amongst running backs. The Ravens have been a productive team for fantasy running backs for quite some time, and last year was no different. Mark Ingram finished the year with 202 carries, over 1,000 rushing yards, 26 receptions, and 247 receiving yards. Total of 15 touchdowns. Did miss the last game of the season with a calf strain, and finished with 242.5 fantasy points, right up there at the bottom of the RB1s, and 16.2 fantasy points per game, which was 10th at the position. J.K. Dobbins finished his junior year up at Ohio State, putting up, I believe, the most productive single season for Ohio State for any running back. 301 carries, 2,003 rushing yards, 23 receptions, and 247 receiving yards. That's kind of ironic. Same amount of receiving yards between these two guys, but 23 touchdowns. Absolute dominant year for J.K. Dobbins. Didn't miss any games. He did have a injury towards the end of the college playoff game that kept him out for the back half, and also limited him into the combine. But other than that, has been pretty durable over college. Did have an injury in high school as well. So pretty durable back for the course of his career. And coming into the situation, could not be a better situation for J.K. Dobbins to come into. He ran the most run-pass option plays in Ohio State of any running back in all of college, and the Ravens ran more RPO plays than any team in the NFL. So perfect pairing. The Ravens just know how to draft, and anyone that is a Steelers or a Bengals or a Browns fan knows this, because it's annoying, because the Ravens always find a way to get the people in the draft. He's like that guy in your fantasy league that always seems to get the best draft day value, and you don't know how it happens. Like, everyone else just misses on a guy and it just falls a round too late. The same thing happens in the NFL with the Ravens every single year. Ravens and Vikings seem to be the two teams that always find a way to get guys that come to them at an incredible value. So J.K. Dobbins falling to them in the second round was a incredibly good pick for them. They had him ranked as their highest running back on their board, and for good reason. So what does this mean for fantasy? Well, last year, Mark Ingram, again, very productive. 3 weeks where he finished as a top 6 running back. Really didn't have all that many down games. He had a couple of games where he was, south of 10 points. But again, where you paid what you paid for him, he was probably drafted as your RB2, maybe even your RB3, and he produced pretty much the whole year. Even gave you a good production in the championship game before he went down for injury, and at least gave you a pretty high floor every week because of the amount of times he found his way into the red zone. So a lot of people are expecting, well, there's going to be a big carry split between Mark Ingram and the rest of the running backs, because outside of Dobbins, you still have Gus Edwards. You have the disappointment that is Justice Hill. This could be a really big mess. But for a team that ran the ball as much as the Ravens last year, and we're expecting to run them again, maybe it doesn't really matter. Last year, Mark Ingram finished with only a 54.9% opportunity share, which was 26th amongst running backs. It was just a very productive running team. Good offensive line. Obviously, the threat of Lamar Jackson meant that defenses couldn't sell out to stop the running back in the running game. Mark Ingram finished with a 5.6 yards per touch, which was 8th amongst running backs, and a 35.2% juke rate, very elusive. And that game script of plus 6.93, good defense. We're able to run the ball as much. So we could see that game script come down just a little bit, although I'm not expecting it. The Ravens defense, if anything, got better over the course of the offseason, so they probably will be able to run the ball as much as they could. Last year, Dobbins finished with 6.7 yards per carry, which was 87th percentile among running backs, 7.6% target share, and I just want to note that he outproduced Ezekiel Elliott, but he's not getting the credit that Ezekiel Elliott did because he didn't get drafted in the top 10 picks. Whatever. Um, so, what does this mean for fantasy? And what it's probably going to end up meaning is Mark Ingram is going to start the year out and be the more productive running back. And over the course of time, just like we had last year with Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders, it's going to take a little while for J.K. Dobbins to actually begin to build up the workload that he needs to be a running back one. But by the end of the season, I'm expecting J.K. Dobbins to be the more productive fantasy back. Even if Mark Ingram plays a full 16 games, I could see them taking a little bit more work off of his plate as the season goes on. I mean, the guy is getting up there in age for a running back, so managing his workload will probably allow him to continue to be effective. So we could honestly have a season where both of these guys are at least running back twos for the entire season, and I do expect there to be plenty of running back 1 weeks from both of them. Probably more so at the beginning of the year for Ingram and later in the year for Dobbins. The problem is they're going pretty much back to back in the ADP right now. So if you take both of them, you are limiting your upside. But if you can get them in like the 6th and 7th round, might be worth it to just take both. Because you could probably start both of them. Right now we have Mark Ingram projected to see a little bit of a downtrend in his rushing yards, hitting at 871. Still haven't getting 10 total touchdowns. That puts him at 188.1 fantasy points. We do give him a lower upside ranking, one because of his age, two because of the injuries he is coming off of last year. Has had injury problems in the past. Now it has been a while since he's missed any time. So last year was the first time he's had an injury come up in a while. That being said, once you break that 30 gap and your name is not Frank Gore, you can expect more of that stuff to start happening for a running back. So I don't expect him to have a full 16-game season where you're incredibly thrilled having him. So as it stands right now, I would probably prefer taking Dobbins over Ingram because you can typically get him a round or two later, and I think he carries a lot more upside, even though we have Ingram projected to do more for the whole season. I expect Dobbins to do more as we get towards the end of the year. So right now we only have 7 out of 12 rushing yards, 200 receiving yards, and 7 total touchdowns projected for Dobbins. But the upside of what happens if Mark Ingram does go down to injury, well, Dobbins would clearly become a very productive back at that point and could arguably be an elite running back one. And anytime you can get a guy that has the potential to boost himself into the RB1 elite tier past round 6, it's worth a shot. So I guess my advice for you guys would be target Dobbins. If you can get both of them for cheap enough, cool. If you don't draft Dobbins, though, he's going to be someone that we're going to be talking about heavily trading for near the end of September, because we don't expect Dobbins to really be that useful from a fantasy perspective for the first couple weeks. He could just come out and blow up right away, and then you'll regret it for not taking him in the draft. But there's also a really good chance that he could come out, start a little slow, only get 5 to 10 touches in the first couple weeks, and be like a fringe RB2 until October when they start giving more workload. And of course, there's a scenario where Mark Ingram just does get the majority of the workload the entire year. But I don't really see a situation where you're unhappy owning either of these guys unless one of them goes down for injury, which we can't project. So I'm going to buy the guy at a discount. J.K. Dobbins is going a round or two later than Mark Ingram. I'm targeting Dobbins. If Ingram falls, I'll gladly take him in the 6th, 7th round. If he goes in the 5th, I'm probably still targeting receivers at that point. I'll just take Dobbins in the 7th. One of these guys is going to win you a league. My argument is it's more likely going to be Dobbins, because once you get closer to the end of the season, as long as you're winning enough games in the start of the season, you're going to want the guy that's better towards the end. but you do have to win those games first. So if you could pull off drafting Mark Ingram and then trading him for Dobbins, that would be perfect. So that's my take. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and hit that subscribe button for more videos like this one. We'll see you guys in the next video.